Welcome back. We had an unbelievable winners finals. It's pretty much all we can say. No need to overfluff that up. It was unbelievable. And I have to imagine that will mean that we will have an absolutely electric lower final as well. We've got Purdue taking on St. Edwards, the blue squad there. And, well, these two teams did meet before proper. That's the big key. It was a winners round one matchup, went 4 maps. SEU blue took all of the respawns, although most of them, actually all of them, were very close. But it was Purdue who had a very successful search, 6-2 when they had played before. So at least some history between both these squads, pretty recent history as well. And I think the biggest thing here is, can Purdue clean up the respawn to actually supplant this Hilltopper squad?
Yeah, because the control also went to a round 5 as well. That can't
Yeah.
go overlooked at the same point in time. So it does go 1-for-1. You know, one team wins the opening hard point. You answer back with a search and destroy. That swing map mode combo of that control, which will be played on checkmate, means just about everything. And you got to think, because that match was played yesterday, that Purdue, they were watching that matchup throughout the entirety of winners finals. There's no question about it. I saw Tom just getting a little bit rowdy inside chat. I'm not even going to front. He does do that quite often, but still, you had time to be able to go back, watch the match, go back to the VOD from yesterday on broadcast, and be able to fully break down what happened during some of those surge moments, what happened during some of those hard point breaks and attempts, and try to rectify that, because now you're in top 3. The opportunity for the potential to guarantee at least second place and to face Ottawa Black on grand finals is all on the cards.
Yep. I mean, for both the hard points that we had, at least looking at the score line between these two teams in that winners round one matchup, it was a single hard point. Realistically, the difference between both of these teams, if that, because the first map was like 250 to like 230 something or other, 227. So yeah, 227, and then the other was 250 to 175. Again, we don't really necessarily have 100% information on what those maps were back then, but regardless of whatever the maps were, you can obviously tell it was very close, because like you mentioned, also the round 5 control persisted. So will be interesting, because we're coming off of a Moscow hardpoint where for SEU blue, there really wasn't a single time in that matchup versus Ottawa Black that they locked down a full hard point. They had a really good look the second time around at the second hill, but a good portion of that hard point stayed neutral thanks to the pressure that the Braves were able to put on. So some instant rectification would have to be there for SEU blue, looking from what just happened in the winners finals going here into the lower finals. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily sit here and take a look at either of these two teams and say that either one of them are carrying any sort of favor going into this. It's essentially a reproving point for what this lower finals very well may look like.
It's very easy to be able to look at both these rosters and say, yeah, the Thresh versus Tragic show, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, it's very easy to be able to say that those are going to be your forerunners as far as overall slayers, ARs on both different sides, right? But then you got to look that much further. The 3 supporting players for both of these two teams, that's when you can really start getting into the nitty gritty for what could be the potential for this best of 5 series. I mean, we were already talking about Moscow Hardpoint, the setups. Although there may be just about once for SEU blue, they really did struggle with that. What was their biggest predator against all of that? It was the submachine gun presence from the Braves, just always just battling their way in, just making them uncomfortable on the front line, and then the ARs cleaning them up. So I'm looking at players such as Benji to be able to be that player for Purdue, to constantly always push that front line forward into the spawns when SEU blue do have a setup, take P2, for example, and then have the ARs in between Tom and Tragic cleaning things up on the backside, because again, we saw this happening. Although the maps were incredibly close to a stretch of the imagination versus Ottawa Black from SEU blue, Thresh can't do everything by themselves. They need help in these respawns. And so long as they will constantly be shut down, this Purdue roster, who's been playing all season long together, will absolutely trample over top of you.
We'll see. It's a lot of things that kind of we throw in the air hypothetically, but it's time to make things turn into a reality here as we're about ready to go for map number 1. Again, some lobby issues throughout the day today, a little bit unfortunate, but we're getting word that the lobby should be loading up here. And hey, how about look at it? There's the transition stinger. Let's jump right on in. Purdue spawning from the favored side, SEU blue, looking to try to maybe do a little bit better over the top of this first hard point. We mentioned the fact that, yeah, sure, there were some moments that were kind of in the midst where, you know, SEU blue never really locked on a full 60 anywhere. But one of the big kind of negatives about how they just recently came off their play was the simple fact that they were very unsuccessful over the top of this first hard point. And as we're starting to learn, the colors very much so are backwards. So just try to keep your mental integrity intact as we try to continue to watch over what will now be SEU blue in the gold and Purdue in the blue.
I never thought that I'd say being colorblind actually had its benefits. I didn't even notice all that. It's great. But either way, I mean, as far as the setup is concerned, SEU blue, again, playing with that P2 position, but I'm almost having a rinse repeat for what this looked like from Ottawa Black's perspective in the beginning of that Moscow hardpoint. They were able to work their way in through P1, just start zoning away some of the members for St. Edwards. And then when you're about 10 seconds in, you start to hit on forward. It's just one more player left alive back here. It's Eons, and they're going to get dealt with. Now for SEU Blue, you just got to flood through lobby and try to deal with these spawns, and now that Purdue hold over by 2.
And maybe we can do a little bit of manipulation from production side to turn SEU Blues color into gold on the overlay and then Purdue into blacks or gray. That would be very helpful because at my old age, well, I have a hard time tracking down things like colors and numbers. Purdue, a flawless start, though, so far. They're at 60 seconds. A good look at the setup here for the second hard point. SEU trying to work their way in from multiple angles. And yeah, there are a couple of kills here, but the spawns are still good for the Boilermakers. Able to eventually get some alleviation on the stagnant time that we've seen for the Hilltoppers. But Tragic up top is already on 6 in a row. Does get cut short of major streaks, but Benji, still a mark of the play, finds himself a double, and only 2 seconds will be given away for SEU.
Again, the setups initially were there. Purdue breaks it up open before P2 even pops. But the one thing that the Hilltoppers always struggled with versus Ottawa Black was resurfacing and breaking back into Hill. So you have another setup here over by P3. You need this one if you are St. Edwards University. This is arguably their best hardpoint from that series versus Ottawa Black. Player number 8, though, is Stone. They're working a little bit of a flank play behind everything, but it's miscoordinated. It's just jointed, and you're just not going to break the spawns open like that.
Yeah, there needed to be some simultaneous pressure from the front to kind of help maybe get that play some success built in. Tragic, good read there on the Eons.
Wow.
I'm sure Eons won't be thinking the same thing. And then Stone and VT from the front, they just absolutely wiped the floor. Oh boy. The problems for SEU Blue here on Moscow Hardpoint, I won't even say are just persisting from what we saw in the winners finals. They are being exasperated. Purdue is all over the map.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and what's even most important, when they are breaking, it's so convincing. The breaks are just that strong, right? That they're just constantly putting themselves in a position to try to just break the hills within the first 10 seconds. I mean, you got an 80-point lead here, Shift. What do you even do if you're SEU?
Yeah, it's looking like our feed has been in some way broken.
Good. I thought that was just me for a second. And
yeah,
then you
dude,
said
I had to
and
look
I heard
around
you, and
too.
I'm like,
I was like, Mountain Internet, are we good?
hold the phone.
Hold the phone. I'm holding it. Now what?
I don't know. Actually, I never made it this far.
First time.
I normally just say the phrase. I never expected anybody to actually hold the phone.
Look, here's the big takeaway. And,
Sure.
you know, we could sit here and we could try to analyze through 2.5 hard points and maybe, beat a dead horse. Purdue is just simply put outslaying. And when you get that in combination of well-timed breaks, even better setups and holds, you don't expect anything different. You have to feel like there will indeed be in some form that level of domination, especially when you rotate from 2 to 3 like that. And you look at SEU Blue's initial setup around 3 and you think, this should be fine. You deal with Stone in the back, but then all of a sudden the dry peak from the middle of the map for Purdue is good. You just can't, you don't like to see that happening, I think, if you're looking for a good fan of just good hard point.
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, I brought up this one narrative too, that this is the Purdue roster that we were seeing through the season of Cold War, right? You know, it's unfortunate to say that they did not have any representation when it came down to playoffs. I feel like they would have done quite well if they were looking in this top form. They do have some time to spend together. Yeah, there was that summer break in between when their season ended, maybe doing some competitions with a couple different team members here and there for the amateur scene, but they still have some of that backbone of chemistry of what they're looking for in some of their best maps, just playing through what they did of the season. I got to stress that this Hilltoppers roster is brand spanking new. So when it comes down to teamwork and cohesion, that will always outweigh just simple or individual strength, especially coming through Thresh and a lot of different of these opportunities. But
I'm going to cut you off for a second because Benji has joined us in the chat here with a feed of the game. So hopefully we have a chance to pull that up on the screen because the game has become a much closer affair, at least for now. Purdue still find themselves up, just to give you guys a kind of radio broadcast. 180-90 is the score. We are currently over the top of the second hard point, and SEU Blue are doing a pretty solid job of actually contesting here from the front, but it's just not going to be good enough. That's the big key. Purdue continue to lock things down, and the same story that we were just telling continues to engage us here through the second set of rotations.
So, I mean, now if you're Purdue, again, with this big lead of about 100 points over top of your adversary, we'd again look over towards P3, where SEU Blue are located at. You just got to have a strong hold here if you're St. Edwards. You got to rectify what happened in the last go of things.
Tom, Good break on the first. Eon's looking to trade things out. Well found for him. Good timing on the red dot chase to find a second elimination. So 206 is where it has stopped for Purdue. Again, names and colors will be backwards here, at least for this first map. We'll try to fix that up as we move over to the search and destroy. Crook, this time, able to find one. Nice turn from Tom, able to find the immediate response and keeps his life, trying to work his way through elbow. But once again, Eon's there to clean things up in the first 30 seconds. Much better here for the side of SEU Blue.
Yeah, and it's just got to be a flawless rotation going forward off of this. You got to soak up at least the back 20 seconds for this scrap time or the beginning of it. And you're going to have Stone just hitting it from the front one more time, just being an absolute nuisance towards the setup for SUE Blue. But regardless, you're able to clean that up. Now you got to focus on the rotation over towards New, because the way that Purdue Gold are trying to play it out, they're going to zone you away from Gold first and foremost. Long-range shots from Thresh should find the first, but can you capitalize on top of that?
That will be the question. Benji trying to make his life find some success through bank. Help coming through. That's Tragic that was working with him. 133 to 10. Eons, nice position here in Gold, but unfortunately Thresh had to put an extra couple of shots into Eons, who was already very low on health. So 4 in a row here for Thresh. You would love to get streaks, so maybe help give an extra resource to get back into this game. It may even be a requirement, but he gets completely stuck in the offices. Stone and Vanish Tom putting a lot of pressure on it, and Purdue once again will break here for the fourth. SEU off their respawn, looking good. Crook, a big moment for him, finding himself a double. I mean, he's only 8 and 17, but you would hope that those 2 kills were able to help open up some space for the rest of his teammates to work on in, and they have, at least for now.
You just got to get in here. You got to get set up, and you just got to deal with all the numbers flooding through. Ben finds the first. Tragic for another trade, but Eons and Thresh, they did more than enough work through the Boulevard side to be able to resurface themselves for this scrap time. And now you just got to start zoning away all of Purdue. You're reading that they're still hitting from the bank side. So this positioning leading from 4 into 1 for a third set of hard points is going to be massive if SUE Blue can hold on, but they can't.
Same question that we had for them versus Ottawa Black. Can they find success over the top of the opening hard point? It will open up, and SEU will be in first. 228, 160. A lot of work to be done here, and it needs to be really darn near picture perfect for Thresh. Able to lock down at least a couple of shots on a Benji. That'll make the trade very easy for Relk. But now the hit from Purdue coming from the front. Eon's caught mantling. No problem there for the initial kill for Tragic. But once again, Relk able to trade things out. Crook, not going to be able to find the immediate kill. That's not good news, because Purdue able to reinforce maybe a touch faster than what we see from SEU. Still contesting. Chaos unfolding inside of Metro. Tragic, though, with a double, has turned the tides. And Purdue will be, at least here with numbers, it just comes down to, can you win the secondary set of fights? And the answer seems to be yes. Thresh and Relk, all they can really do is just kind of watch from the cutout window, hope they can get some shots in, and they will be able to find a couple of trades. But Purdue, just too many numbers around the hard point. They can win here.
5 seconds are all that they need. It's going to be a pinch play, and you got to hit it effectively. And it comes through 3 kills for St. Edward's University. And look at how they acknowledge 5 seconds left in P1. We got to focus on the rotation over towards New. 2 players for Purdue actually spawn out over by the bank. You got to recognize this if you're SUE Blue. It's just Tragic back here.
You have to go chase him down, too. You cannot allow him just to stay here. Spawns will be good, but Tragic finds himself a 3rd kill. Crook looking to play from the back alley. Good breed from Tragic. He finds number 4. Now Benji's here from the front. He finds an elimination. Relk doing what he can. The last-ditch effort and hope for SCU denied by Stone. And then the prediction to the front side of lobby. 249 and... Welcome back. Apologies for the small tech issues, but at least we were able to capture the majority of what we saw in the first hard point, which largely, in case you did miss any of that first opening map, it was pretty much just a Boilermaker steamroll all the way throughout it. Yes, there was a nice effort from SCU to get back into the game, but it was way too much of a deep hole to be digging yourself right back out of as we came down to that second hard point. So 1-0 up are Purdue, and now a chance to kind of continue what has been a very good search and destroy run for them here in this tournament. They'll be playing it on Express for map number 2.
I like Express, especially for Purdue, right? You have a lot of different nooks and crannies, a lot of different corners where you can have Benji just getting wily and aggressive. It can really get in the minds of SUE Blue, because we know, again, the one continuous narrative that they really struggled with versus Ottawa Black, barring a couple rounds, barring maybe a couple 10 seconds differences in the respawns, is that their SMG lineup is definitely not where their strength is located at.
Sure.
So long as the ARs can continuously keep Thresh overwhelmed, then you're not necessarily being, say, rallied by your or for the SMGs at that point. You can get aggressive. You can take those very aggressive challenges, because coming off that hard point, you're winning them about 3 times over. So if you can find those early first bloods, especially from the submachine guns, it's going to make this map very easy for Purdue.
All right, well, there's the win condition. I think it's beautifully framed up, so we'll see if that will end up coming through, or can SEU Blue find a way to maybe even turn that conversation immediately around into the faces of the Boilermakers. We'll be seeing as they're needed to find a way to get this back to a 1-1 tie. You would feel like just, yeah, the respawn was good the first time around, but a lot left to be desired after that first hard point. And it will be SEU Blue onto the offense first. Looking to make a play is Benji through the middle of the map, but that is aggressive. And honestly, you kind of have to wonder, where did he think he had the opportunity to make that play happen when there was really no set nades over towards A either? So no information, a blind peek, and it gets punished.
I don't really know. I mean, again, no information over at A. I don't know what you were expecting there. Maybe to find a timed 2-piece, but regardless, the bomb side is going to be the committal here for SEU Blue. They do have the numbers advantage. Some shots did come through from Tom. That's inside the stairwell, but the pinch is currently being set up from departures out of Stone.
Yeah, Stone's going to make things a 3v3, and he's going to get away. Relic was looking to make sure the flank stayed safe. Bomb going to be planted. And Eons has cleared up space through arrivals. This is absolutely brilliant. He's got the opportunity to come back to the bomb safely or re-wrap through mid. So for Crook and Relic, it's all about just making sure you stay safe in this staircase. But eventually, someone's going to have to check the bomb. Maybe not going to make a difference. Crook able to find a second elimination on that charge through the mid. Just down to tragic 1v3. Really nowhere to go, and he does actually slide cancel, so that's every bit of information that SEU needs, and with that, they take the opening round.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a great first blood altogether, and then the realization that, hey, we just found a kill inside our staircase, ? So let's go ahead and just fully clear out this B bomb site, because at least we know they're going to be one defender short, killing Ben like that. But I still question myself as to why Ben just got so aggressive. Again, no information at all. No help whatsoever. Very questionable opening led to their ultimate demise, as the retake just simply could not come through with all the angles that were currently being held. And Crook found 3 in the round as well, getting aggressive. This is everything that I was saying Purdue COD were doing quite well for themselves, the SMG presence. If SEU Blue can continue on with that, we're talking a different narrative here.
Purdue stacking into maps. Oh, Crook has slipped through. He's got train control completely. He can either, again, pinch behind or just come right back through train. And Purdue has no idea. They've got absolutely no information that he's in this back position. Relic can just stay safe. Crook is hearing a lot of nades come through. Just comes down to the timing of this peak. Sees one, gets Benji off the bomb, and looking for the third. Oh my goodness, how clean is that? 3 kills, 1 clip. And Vanish Tom says, okay, let me just casually 1v4 maybe.
Maybe. Yamati shot's already in the back, trying to take the chow. Crook will clean them up.
7-0.
That's the full ace. The full ace out from the kid. Crook comes in, says, yeah, you want to talk about the SMGs out of Purdue proper? I got you. No problem at all. 7-0, give him the defuse. I think that should be the artillery strike earned, if I'm not fully mistaken. But regardless, I mean, they're going to be like a mustache hair away from getting fully streaked out. But this timing right here, again, the way that Crook was able to work their way through the middle of the map, in through seats, and then over through lockers, it almost like they have like a stopwatch or something just to be able to time that out, to get the chow inside lockers for free, take off the bomb planter once they were done planting, and then find the rechow and readjustment shots in the middle of the train. That's absurd. Well played.
So clean. Artillery earned. And yeah, maybe one mustachio hair away from the cruise missile as well with the objective play, because not only has he gotten a plant, he also got the defuse. So you have to feel like maybe one trophy system that he can destroy. He's got it. We'll see how things unfold. Trophy will go down. Crook looking to plant. It's bold, but he's going to get this off. And likely with that should also mean the cruise missile has been earned. Thresh watching the middle of the map. Deep flank watch from Relk all the way back in spawn. And Purdue, who are trying to make a play happen off the flank. Benji's actually gone to the high ground through the overpass. It looks like Relk has seen this. Thresh turns around, finds the kill. But from the front, Tom's able to find one into his own. So 3v3. And honestly, Purdue have numbers to get onto this bomb quickly. Thresh and Relk have to go. They can't just stay there, especially now that Eons has dropped. The only bit of information, actually, no, Eons doesn't even see if anyone's defusing. So no, Thresh has to come through. He finds himself one. Tom's sticking, though. Thresh, for the second, deals with the bomb diffuser. 12 seconds, 1v1. Tragic hops it. Relk playing the time, goes to check, spam shots will come through, and SEU Blue find themselves up 3-0 with what should be full streaks as well.
I got scared there for a second. The second that Crook went down, they got the bomb planted and everything. But their win condition, of course, planting out on this bomb site was utilizing the artillery strike in a post-plant situation, but they got chased by Purdue. And they almost found the series of kills and got mistimed as far as the bomb defuse was concerned. But resurfacing themselves, the centering, and everything else in between was an absolute pristine for SEU Blue. cleaning up after they lost their top fragger through 3 rounds. They're 7-1 in Crook. But through those 3 rounds, it's been all the Hilltoppers. Purdue desperately looking for an answer for this search and destroy on Express. And it seems like they're going to try their hand at a 4-player rush over towards A. Now, this is a stack for SUE Blue over towards B. Doesn't mean they don't have angles looking at that bomb site.
Oof. So, I mean, this has so far been shoe on the opposite foot, hasn't it? I mean, compared to what we were kind of setting up statistically and historically between these two squads, granted the history is a brief one, it was all respawn for SEU Blue, all search for Purdue. That has been flipped on its head. Benji, not going to be able to get things off in flawless round for SEU Blue. And I think you could really say a lot to what you were talking about before. The fact that this is a fresh group of 4. I don't believe they've had a lot of time to play with one another, maybe outside of the fact that, you know, whenever the move-ins happen to get onto St. Edward's campus, and they're learning, they're adapting, and they're really responding well to one another.
No, I need Pallyboy to slide in my Discord DMs one time to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure they've been playing together for like less than a week. I'm pretty sure that it's been less than a week, but you could fool me twice on over for how these 4 rounds here on Express Search and Destroy has gone. I mean, hell, maybe in that less than a week times is the only Search and Destroy map they played. They look pretty darn good on it. 2-2 split for their offense, 2 players out of the hallway for departures, 2 players towards the middle of the map, just trying to find the information. I think that you found some tags on the stone. You see them serpentining up through arrivals, and that should be the information. Hey, there may only be 1 player here. We cleared out Ticket. Let's try to work this bomb plane, huh?
Crook in trouble. Tom able to find first blood. More Hilltopper members nearby, though. None can find the trade. That's the big key. Tom has had to deal with the devil to stay alive this long, and now Benji from behind. Good for 1. They should know that Thresh is somewhere nearby, and oh boy. Both these last 2 Hilltoppers are literally trapped. Benji good for a second. Eons finds a silver lining in a trade, but can't get down through stone. So Purdue, they bounce back, find themselves a much-needed round. You don't want to go down 5-0.
I mean, you could even argue even being down 4-1 is still a steep deficit, but at least you get yourself on the board. Get some pep at that step. Just hope that maybe you can start working off of this. The biggest difference, especially for Purdue in this round, once everything started hitting the fan, some shots started flying on both sides. They were preserving their life a whole lot better. Just not allowing SUE Blue to work any of their crossfires or get aggressive. Just playing the angles, just letting the gunfights come to them, and dealing with it in spades. That needs to be a consistent factor here for Purdue COD going forward, because aggression has all been SUE Blue when they've been able to do it. For an offensive round, though, again, just spacing through the middle of the map, you will leave Tom over by the departures to see if they can find any spam shots or a player rotating, but it's starting to look like a B committal here, Alan.
Still some figuring out that could happen, though, for the Boilermakers, especially with Stone getting all the way through lockers quickly, mind you. Big question mark is, oh boy, can Stone do anything else? Oh my goodness, how is he allowed to slip away from that? And then Tragic mid-map actually deals with Thresh, so Stone off the regen. Benji finding Relic for free. Everything is falling apart here for SCU, and I think a lot of it is due to the fact that you had one member in Stone who just kind of had his own way with A, and it kind of threw out some confusion for the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, it really did. Breaking mental angles out here. They had no idea what ended up transpiring, and I did get the confirmation from Pally. They legitimately met on Thursday. On Thursday, they did this entire team of the Hilltoppers. So if you see some wonky stuff, some mistiming, some lack of help, I mean, that would go ahead and describe it why. But overall brilliance and individual strength is correlating to about to be a strong 4. But you see Purdue starting to take adaptations, starting to get methodical. And they're starting to isolate a lot of these players, and they're really just manipulating the terrain here on Express. When it comes down to these hallways and staircases, you can get freaky over in those parts of the map, and Purdue COD starting to show that through the past 2 rounds.
So Purdue on some momentum, getting a bit aggressive here at A. Stone has already worked his way up top. Benji also figuring out what's going on over through the train, but Stone's by himself. He's going to have to go 1-for-1 here in this position, and well, does he? Eon's able to find the shot punch, though, into Benji in the same exact moment, so he stayed 3v3, and Stone has gotten out of dodge. Obviously, you can see the Hilltoppers are like, where did he go? Because he got out of there really quick.
Again, I mean, Purdue COD, the past 2 rounds, they're being so aloof. They're able to do it again. I mean, the Hilltoppers, they keep climbing on up to the high ground, but what do you do from here? There's no way you're going to try to drop down and plant this bomb at A. You have no idea what's on the opposite side of that planter's box, more or less. You got to read the flank. Well, they know at least one's back here, but you're not taking that shot for Eons.
Now, Threshes are still a part of the problem, though, and that's what to say.
that
Tom is pushed up so far forward. Stone dealt with, though. Eons and Relk, they've salvaged it. Oh, but Eons thinks that he can have a free planet B. That's not the case. Tragic is here. Comes down to the timing. They're going to go ring around the rosy. That's so unfortunate for Tragic. He would have had a look at a 1v1, and he could have just won the round right there because there wouldn't have been time for Relk to come back. But now Tragic, realizing what has just occurred, has to retake. Eon's playing through elevator. I think Tragic just saw him as well. Yeah, sure has. Relk playing close, timing, shots decent, but not good enough. Relk wins the round, and now 5-2 up, go SEU Blue.
It's so tough to take that challenge from Arrivals looking into the elevator. You gotta remember that you are shooting through glass, so that does end up working through bullet penetration, but you're not 2-bulleting, 3-bulleting people as if they were just out in the open in a traditional 1v1. So respect the trigger discipline coming through until you fully realize where that last player was, or the second player was located at for the Hilltoppers. But as a whole, you got to tip it to the timing. You got to feel bad if you are Purdue COD, given that they ended up just recognizing that, well, we just got timing from Arrivals. But how about this? Reed, 3 players defensively here, 4 players stacked for the offense.
Thresh for 1. He's stuck in this corner. But to say, someone just throw a nade at him. Relk, Eon's on the corner. Nice little trades coming back and forth. We'll go to a 2v2. Stone trying to get out of dodge and just barely, by the skin of his teeth, able to avoid a handful of Semtexes thrown his direction. Long wraparound from Benji actually clears out the rest of Arrivals, but SEU Blue will take this as a time to kind of reset their defense, get out of dodge, and then reapproach, maybe even waiting for a bomb plant to decide what they want to do for a retake.
It's also just smart in general to clear your back, right? You know that they're not coming to A, so they're definitely going to still be over at B. You can even take this time to fully clear out the offensive spawn, but the mutual information will be there. You know that at least one's on the bomb plant. Your biggest question is, where did Benji go? We know that they did timing to be able to clear out Arrivals. If you're playing this very isolated, comes down to 1v1s. Relk, that's a big kill on the Stone.
Benji trying to play the same angle, though. Would you expect this if you're the Hilltoppers? So far, the answer is no. They're trying to clear out space down low by the monitors. And Benji, brilliant. He's seen one. Relk, though, gets the information. Gunfight 1. Eon, second one up. He wants to take the challenge, and Benji, unfortunately, just runs out of ammunition. Gives Eons a chance. He was taken down to critical HP, but the quick swap to the pistol, not going to be quick enough. And the Hilltoppers will once again even up this series with a much more dominant display here on the Search and Destroy. 6-2 the tally.
Yeah, well, that was the complete opposite of what transpired the last time these two teams faced, was 6-2 for Purdue. It's like you were saying back in round number 3. The entire narrative, the script has been flipped between these two teams. The respawns in favor for Purdue, the Search and Destroy in favor for the Hilltoppers, and it has been the opposite of what we saw back in Winners Round 1, Alan. And honestly speaking, the adaptations, they're there. The Augusto, it's certainly there again. I love being wrong, saying that Purdue was going to find value in being aggressive on Express. It was disjointed. It was looking confused at certain instances at the beginning of the round, but it was SEU Blue, the Hilltoppers. They make all the aggressive moves going forward. Their team shots, absolutely sublime. You could have fooled me twice on over if you told me that this team met on Thursday with what I just saw.
I'm telling you, they're really starting to warm up to one another. That much is for sure. So we're tied up at 1 map apiece through 2. We'll take our very normal after 2 break that we currently have, and we'll come back to frame up the checkmate control and checkmate hardpoint. That is guaranteed now with this current map count right at the backside of the break. Welcome back. We have another very, very tight affair on our hands here. After the Moscow hardpoint favored the Boilermakers of Purdue, it would be the Express Search and Destroy, very much so convincingly going the way of St. Edward's. So we're left with 2 checkmates to at least get through and before we maybe consider the raid Search and Destroy. The first time that we've had a chance to watch checkmate control, at least on the day so far, I think we can very easily point towards the ARs as focused areas. But let's be honest, one of the big struggles that we kind of saw, at least kind of relating to the Ottawa series versus SEU, was that some of the subs are going to need to help out Thresh. You need to creating space is fine, but you need to be able to take that space. And I think you're looking at Crook and Eons potentially do this, that.
And you need to be able to capitalize on all those kills that start to come through as well. That was one of the biggest struggles that ended up being recognized in between that matchup between SUE Blue and Ottawa Black on that raid control on a much smaller map. You know, when you have a very small amount of time for decisive action to come through for setups when you're trying to take zones, you got to be able to make that happen a lot quicker here on checkmate. Because it's so open, you cannot give a lot of these open areas for Purdue Gold, especially on defense, to resurface themselves. But it's going to be their offense first and foremost. SU in Blue, the way that they're setting themselves up, at least through the initial break, going to give themselves some spacing before Purdue COD can finally get themselves on a zone to stop the clock.
Easier said than done, that much is for sure. Tragic, though, does have maybe a 1v1 here with Crook, and he gives it to him. Wow, okay, Semtex maybe flushed him out, but Crook was already committed to the gunfight, so A has now been opened, at least marginally. So the can opener is starting to pry open. What's happening here? But Relk, prone down. Tragic, gets away. So at least the lives are staying pretty healthy overall for Purdue, but there's just no actual motion towards any of the hard points, or the control points whatsoever. Relk will make sure of that. All 4 members fall, and the Boilermakers stuck with not a lot of time to work with here in this first offense.
Not a lot of time. You look at the lives at 17v25, and that's going to continue to dwindle on down because now you're essentially just going to try to roll out a spawn, just try to dead sprint towards one of these 2 zones, and when you're dead sprinting towards the awaiting arms of all the SEU blue members just getting kills. Relk has still not died, by the way. They're 4-0, 5-1 for Thresh in this opening round. And this is all the help that we were asking for, you know, to help out Thresh for the amount of slaying that they were able to find for themselves throughout the entirety of the series for versus Ottawa Black. Came up a little bit flat in that Moscow hardpoint. That was a great defensive start for the Hilltoppers.
And you almost can kind of visibly see the trust starting to build. I know we're talking about familiarity for this SEU squad who, like we continue to mention, have only been playing together since like Thursday. But the thing about it is, at a certain point, you watch kill cams of Eons finding 3 in a row. You watch kill cams of Thresh cleanly picking things up with the AR, and you start to think, you know what, like this guy does have my back. Like it's like that little subconscious trust that you're starting to see develop, because even in that moment right there, yeah, Thresh and Relk, really good to find opening kills, but look how much faster Eons and Crook are starting to move now all of a sudden to take over that space. So really good awareness so far, and again, just generally impressed with this squad that we've had so far. Now just down to, can they find some of that success here on the offense? Looks like the call will be to start things over towards B, and even though the first blood came through, Tom will make sure the B zone does stay safe.
For the time being, it will. So SUE Blue, not the convincing opening break they were hoping for the offense. And now you just start taking some of the space away. Top lane is going to be the immediate focus, at least for Thresh. And at least finding some kills all around there. They're going to play on the exit side for the defenders team. It's going to be pinched up momentarily, but damn, are they finding a lot of value. And that could open up the space for the 3 players for SUE Blue pushed up forward. It can guarantee themselves plane control. And this top-down position is going to be great, so you can start working up some progress at B and stop that clock.
Crook up top is the linchpin for success here, and whoa, he actually does control the first elimination. Tom in a bit of trouble, actually a lot of trouble. Crook making his way over. This is what we're talking about with plane control. You want to see something like this where the SMG just floats back and forth, but the problem is it's only one tick of progress, and there's really not a lot of help over towards getting to the A zone. Often when you see kind of a initial play towards B, off the respawn, everyone floods to A, but that has not been allowed, and Purdue have just gotten right back into the defensive dominance that you would expect.
Yeah, and that could be one of the faults of, you know, just not a lot of team chemistry today. Just off the rip, just what are we looking for? A lot of hesitation over towards that north lane. Do we try to go reinforce B? Do we go for plane? Should we just flood over towards A? The right call, of course, being to try to flood over towards A because everybody from Purdue Gold were so heavily focused over towards B, but now they have stabilized towards the middle of the map. Player number 6 of Relk has actually found themselves a nice kill towards that top wing, so they can stop the clock at 23 seconds. Tough engagement down the lane. Reinforcements right behind them. They still take their own life.
Yeah, just a little bit short on the nade on the corner. Second tick of progress will be here. Number 3 in Tragic, the only defensive Boilermaker nearby, and he still gets gifted a gunfight. That will be enough to clear the zone. 13 playing 15, lives advantage for SEU, but they need the extra 60 seconds. Relk on his lonesome, able to find one. Tragic sliding out, finds the trade, looking for a double and gets it. 4 kills in a row for Tragic. Crook able to find the trade and then hopefully slip on in to stall the clock and help from Thresh from afar. That'll be good to at least allow a chance to keep denying some time, but on the cross, Tom's able to find a kill. The full stack coming through. Purdue, do you go for this? Not a lot of lives to play for, and well, the full stack will allow an extra 60 seconds, but the kill's decent enough for Purdue to marginalize the life lead.
Yeah, and now you can just start finding a couple exit kills. The life lead is only down to about 2, so it just comes down to this upcoming gunfight. If Purdue can end up winning it, they'll be in a great spot going forward. But Eons finds a big one. That's on a Tragic. That's underneath the north wing. What can you try to do with that? You got to get some A Street presence. If you are Eons, they're going to have an off-screen engagement versus Ben. Quickly on-screen, Ben will win that out. So that's going to slow up the offense considerably as they're still trying to find where the rest of these members for Purdue are at.
There's plenty of time here. They even play for kills. Looking for the little crouch spam was Thresh to win the gunfight, but Tom will deny. 5v6, 20 seconds. No more respawns remaining as Eons turns it into a 4 life count for Purdue. Someone has to touch, though. Purdue definitely with the advantage of just forcing SEU Blue to make the first move, and they've capitalized. 4v4 now all of a sudden. Thresh, long cross, finds a double. Chance to stall the clock out as Ralk is still on the point. Thresh watching the cross from behind. Here comes Stone. He finds one. Thresh for the third. Tragic responds. 1v2. 4.6 seconds on the clock. Crook looking for the gunfight, but avoiding it for a time is tragic. But the simple numbers will be the win condition. And SEU Blue take away and steal away the offense to go up 2-0.
That got real close again. It came down to that opening gunfight, isolated engagements. Ben ends up finding that trade towards that A street, and everything just kind of just clears the air for about a solid 5 seconds. Just nothingness was happening, and then everything just broke out over by that engine where the B zone is located at. Trades came through, and then it was that two-piece that came through over by the yellow crate. That was massive. That opened up everything so that you can constantly just stop the clock. You had the life lead, so it was just about dwindling down the numbers like you were saying, Alan, and well, you definitely wanted it sooner rather than later, but it comes to regardless for the Hilltoppers with the 2-0 lead here on Checkmate.
Big advantage. Benji, you mentioned it, brother, but quad neg, 4 and 16.
It's not good.
Not good. I would say I've seen worse, but I don't know if that's true.
See my KD.
Okay, I've seen worse. 2-0 up, though, SEU Blue, but progress happening here at B. Purdue with a bit of a stack, nearly get the full capture onto B, but once again, Thresh on the cross, doubles down, and even though Benji's been freed up to make a move over towards Wood, he's pretty much on his lonesome here. Thresh continues to wreak havoc in the Purdue spawn, and even though it looked like a near full capture on the first attempt towards B, SEU Blue now dominates the mid-map.
Yeah, it was that same two-piece that Thresh found over by the yellow crate. This time around on the defensive side to help out, stop that full B capture coming through. 2 ticks of progress, though. You know Purdue, they want to fully capture this. They want to be able to get that extra 60 seconds, but Thresh playing an angle on the opposite engine is just trying to find this opening kill. It's just going to have to be information for the time being. No plane control immediately. The swarm is starting to come in for Purdue. 1v2. The Chow is in. Trade soon to follow, but Purdue have numbers around the zone.
Thresh finds one. Long-range shots from Crook. Goodness, has he woken up since those first couple of maps versus Ottawa. Stone, though, on 3 in a row, will now be the next Boilermaker into the hard point. Numbers starting to flood forward for the Hilltoppers. Stone reads it, able to find one, turns around. Thresh gets a double with the pistol. Eon's there to make sure he doesn't need to get a third, but I think he would have been up for it. 26 seconds on the clock, and SEU Blue about to find maybe a 3-0 on the Checkmate. Thresh on 4 in a row. He's 27-9. That Texas fiber do be hitting a bit different. What an unbelievable performance from Thresh, as it looks like the Hilltoppers are on cruise control to put this map away.
Yeah, you just have no answers going forward if you're Purdue. 9-15 from Tom, 7-20 for Benji. Tragic, the only one positive at 19-15. Really does speak volumes to how much struggle Purdue did try to adverse through. And we'll stop the clock marginally over by the B zone. Thresh will deal with it in kind. They are up to 29-10. They want kill number 30. Stop the clock. Eons finds the kill. There it is. Kill number 30. Triple positive for Thresh in a 3-0 here on the Checkmate control. Undeniable at certain instances. It got sticky in the offensive round, but still, SUE Blue, they got something special in this Thresh kid.
A 30 bomb in 3 rounds. Hello?
Averaging 10 kills per round. That's easy
math.
math.
Easy math there.
Yep. Don't even need my TI-83 for that. That's
Unreal.
crazy.
Unbelievable stuff. I'm telling you, man, this kid is something else. Like, this last year in Cold War, we keep mentioning that Team Smog squad was really good. They played with Infinite Being throughout the round. Obviously, Clamp had a lot of favor off of Modern Warfare coming in, but Thresh, I've got my eyes on you, brother. I can't wait to see what you put in, not only for the next season, but I'm interested to see what he's going to be able to do with challengers next year. So 3-0 the count. Checkmate control. Done, gone, dusted up. Now we've got Checkmate again, this time for the hard point. And SEU Blue, who were so good in the respawn versus Purdue their first time around in the winners round 1, have a chance to still find another 3-1 here if they can find a way to steal away this Checkmate hard point.
Yeah, and the hard points have always been going in the favor so far, barring that first hard point that we had in this best of 5 series, at least on the weekend between these two teams. That Moscow hard point, though, it really showed a lot of the strong teamwork coming through for Purdue. But a lot of that teamwork was almost really opened up by Benji in that submachine gun. Yeah. You go back to the Checkmate control, Ben was a non-benefactor, and I say that very loosely. They were like quad negative at the end. You can't have that happen. The plane has to be in control when you're thinking of vital rotations, going from 2 to 3, holding from 3 to 4, and then going from 5 to 1 as well. If your submachine guns are dropping numbers that low, this is not going to be a fun time for you because if
No,
the
it's
ARs are just
not.
lighting things up, Thresh is dropping numbers like this on checkmate, and the SMGs are starting to feel themselves. They're starting to get confident. Oh man, it's only going to the hole's only going to get so deep here, Purdue.
Wow. Unreal stuff. So, checkmate hardpoint coming up next. And for me, I look first and foremost to Benji. Obviously, a very weak performance from him out of the control.
Right.
You look at what we saw out of the Hilltoppers specifically, not just Thresh, but how the SMGs continue to find room to work with in the middle of the plane. Benji is the guy that has to step up to the plate and hopefully knock one out of the park here. I mean, you've got to be able to deal with at least Crook, if not potentially also Eons, depending on which weapon he wants to bring to the table, which has been another interesting conversation. Like, this SEU Hilltopper squad has largely ran off of 3 ARs at times. We've seen it not only in this series, but also when they played up against Ottawa Black. So if it's just a 1v1 in the sub department, if Purdue's going to find a way to really stall out this momentum from SEU, it has to be, I think, from Benji first and foremost onto Crook.
Yeah, so that way you can just not allow that AAA setup to really just sink their teeth into this map of checkmate. Again, there's a lot of open opportunities for ARs to just beam you across the map. We saw Thresh do it so many different times, offensive, defensive side for checkmate control. And when you end up having 3 Rs just helping things out on the crossfire, pinches, and everything else for team shots included, that's where, again, this team of SUE Blue have been finding their strides. They dealt with the aggression from Ottawa Black in a lot of different instances with the 3 AR setup. But my biggest concern is that hardpoint as a whole for these Hilltoppers. I mean, as far as the day is concerned, their breaks have been terrible. I mean, they have barely broken in any hard points at all. I mean, their setups have been better, but they've been broken open way too many times. Those things have to get immediately corrected on a map that you just saw was a very strong performance on a different mode, but that has to then get correlated over towards the hardpoint mode where you have to really rely on those setups, and the breaks just simply have to be there. Purdue are getting unanswered 50 points like what we saw in some instances on that Moscow hardpoint. We are guaranteeing ourselves that fifth and final map for sure.
And that's, I think, just generally the veteranship that you see from Purdue playing together with so much familiarity over the course of the last year that you would expect the setups for breaks and, of course, what they put together for a hold to be a little bit more confident and maybe a little bit more comfortable because you know who's going to be watching what. That's not in the laid groundwork here for SEU Blue. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You look at hard points like the Moscow that we've seen in this series, not really any convincing moments, largely for the better part of 40 plus seconds on any hill for SEU Blue. And that will likely be another talking point as we get into this checkmate, because obviously when you look at the second and the fifth hard points, that could be where the game is won and lost. So yeah, good point to bring up there for sure. We are still waiting at the lobby, but again, just to remind you, if you're joining us here a little bit late, this is the lower finals. Winner of this goes on to play up against Ottawa Black in the grand finals, and it would take 2 best-of-5 wins to be your Summer Cup champions here with College COD presented by eFuse. A lot more coming up in the wings as well, all of you College COD fans. So even though we find ourselves in this very elongated off season when it comes to the CCL, simply due to the fact that we can't put together a fall season necessarily, there is a lot to look forward to. So make sure you're keeping track with us. If you're new to College COD, you haven't had a chance to follow along with either our Twitter or, most importantly, our Discord. I imagine some capable mod out there will be hitting these commands as I'm talking about it. Make sure you go ahead and follow along in both of those places. Even more so as we find ourselves in the fall season, I think it is important to educate that anyone out there that wants to play in this league, you're like, hey, I go to college, I can do this, I can frag these guys, they're nobodies, which is very often the case when people watch the CCL for the first time. Little do you know how wrong you are. Make sure you reach out to some of our management staff to see how you can go about maybe finding out if your school has an esports program, or maybe beyond that, how you can maybe set something up to get your team registered for the 2022 regular season on Vanguard. That's going to be a very fun treat. I'm very excited for it. And, you know, every single year we do this, we get new schools all over the place. And let's be honest, a number of them actually set themselves up for success in these offseason tournaments. It was Concord in Modern Warfare. It was Ottawa in Cold War. We could be seeing a new favorite starting to crop up here with SEU Blue.
It's very possible, right? I mean, ever since that you brought me on since the Black Ops 4 season, we've just been seeing different champions being named every single season. New names, new faces, new freshmen coming through. We've said bye to a lot of our favorite seniors that won't be competing this upcoming year as well. And as heartbreaking as that is, it's always very heartwarming to be able to see some of these new names step up to the plate and knock things out of the park, such as this SUE roster. Just take that as a fine example. We had a lot of new teams being able to or find themselves in the limelight, and they absolutely flourish. Who's to say that this Hilltoppers roster, as we're progressively seeing them through the weekend, brought Ottawa Black to the brink, the furthest that we've seen them be brought to, barring, Concord winning one control map, and their sister team of Ottawa Gold. That's where the narratives start being built. You're absolutely right, brother. I'm so pumped for the season.
It's going to be fun. We are still waiting on lobby, and I have ran out of things to vamp about. So we'll go ahead and throw things over to a brief break. Hopefully we can get things set up here for the Checkmate Hardpoint without too much more of a delay. So stick with us. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. We're jumping on in, and it's SEU Blue up 2-1 in this lower finals versus the Purdue Boilermakers. And for Eons, this is the thing. I won't lie. We're learning about these guys as we are getting a first look at a number of them. At least, collectively, we're getting a first look. Eons had a really slow start in the winners finals, but he has really picked things up. The OBJ SMG now getting a bit aggressive. He's now won the rotation, and Purdue are not just empty with time. They are empty on the rotation. They need to do a lot here in the next 20 seconds.
And our biggest concern coming into this, especially for the Hilltoppers, was how are their holds, how are their breaks going to be looking like? Because as far as Hardpoint for the weekend is concerned, that's where they've been a rather lackluster. So when you got Eon starting to play with the confidence, you got Thresh piecing together, they went triple positive on the checkmate control. Yeah, that's enough to put my pep in my step as a submachine gun player, just to find some trades and find some early damage. So the rotation is in for P2, but the top flank control is here for Tragic. They beam 2. It's not going to be enough to upset the spawns. You still have players like Eons trying to be an absolute nuisance at the front before they can start hitting the front of the hill.
He essentially just guarantees the first 20 seconds just by being a nuisance in the middle of the map. He spawns right back up, has a chance to contest. Tragic working with Stone, and they do work nicely together. Unfortunate self-team nade will come through as Eons was trying to zone out the front door, but it was only Tragic who was left alive. He wasn't doing enough to fully flip the spawns, and it's only 5 seconds given away as SEU Blue right back in to control some time here on the second.
And the setup is strong. Again, Eons bought a lot of time for the opening 20 seconds, but apart from that, once Purdue COD started working their way through and towards that hard point, they just got laser beamed down. Thresh is 6-2. Eons is feeling themselves in the middle of the map, 9-4 for the kid, and they're just continuously just buying them so much space. What a perfect time to lose a gunfight as well. If you are SUE Blue, you see how the spawns have now essentially flipped on both sides. Now it's SUE Blue with middle map control. You got to be careful with how far forward you push because you just gifted Tom a very nice spawn.
Yeah, and honestly, Crook, he's by himself. He's done well to kind of keep a little bit of extra time here on the third hard point. But Purdue, the first good look at some significant time. Eons, what in the world? 2 in a row for him. 12-6, and that moment right there could just be huge for the program.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. It might just be big to guarantee the next series of seconds and the rotation over towards 4, but Purdue, quick on the ante, just trying to at least find some trades, trying to salvage what has happened through the first 3 hard points here on Checkmate. We're just on a scrap time. You got to give this up if you are Purdue. Just put numbers into guaranteeing yourself the A streak, but Crook lines up 2, finds it, knocks them both down, adds some body shots to boot.
Wow.
This is fun.
This is very fun, especially if you're a Hilltopper fan right now. The Purdue fighting back. Still, overall, not a bad third hill for them. And you can keep putting together not bad hills for a while, and early on, that's going to be largely good enough to get back into this game. Even better if you can find a way to zone off this 4th hill. You see, obviously, the attention to detail for SEU Blue right now is make sure we keep these concrete spawns. Relk the anchor. Now it's going to be both SMGs pushing through mid-map. Stone underneath the engine. Should be overwhelmed here in a moment, but he's done well to kind of slip the net. Very elusive he's been. Finds Eons, grabs a kill. With that, though, you do have Crook who's able to find himself into the hard point, and with the wins from the ARs, SEU Blue will break up the monotony, which was a Boilermaker hard point.
Pretty sure this is the first time for the Hilltoppers all weekend long that Thresh isn't the top fragger for their team. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. I mean,
not a single time, yeah.
Yeah, 14-11 for Eons. You cannot, again, understate the amount of value that SUE Blue are getting from their submachine guns on a very AR-heavy map. On the opposite side, though, for Purdue, Ben just really struggling. Double negative, locks down that rotationary kill on the Thresh. P5 is about to pop. And while Purdue, they do have the favored side to hold on to this. It's just about dealing with SUE Blue as they're working the north lane.
Stone, big responsibility working with Tragic to make sure that this play through concrete is dealt with. Relk spamming a lot of shots. Also gets taken care of. Thresh falls, all 4 members for the Hilltoppers drop. What's the next setup here? 20 seconds already being earned for Purdue. And considering the fireworks we've seen, Purdue's right back in this game, and Tragic is working towards streak 16-9 for him. Over the top, Crook looking to still hit this through the exit, but you need to put pressure from multiple sides, and Thresh opens up with one elimination onto the hard point itself. Crook, the next one to get activated. Tragic on 6, looking to get himself a 7th, has shots into Crook, wins the gunfight, artillery earned, 9 shots left, and help coming from afar to make sure Tragic can continue to try to play for a cruise missile as Purdue takes the lead.
You would love this cruise missile. I mean, you have brought yourself back through that first set of hills. It was looking dire. At the end of P3, it was 100-30. And from 3 to 4 all the way into 5, Purdue, they do the unspeakable, and Tragic gets full streaks going in towards a second set of hills. But Eons is not done yet. They had a great first set, 19 and 15 on a 3 streak themselves. They have some help inside this plane with the favorite side of the map as well. But this is when you can see P1 turn into a money hill. If Purdue cannot break inside here, this would be an unanswered 40 seconds. And SEU Blue, they just have all angles covered.
Yeah, the confidence is really noticeable for SEU Blue. Crook even taking a long flanking route around the backside of Purdue's setup. Eon's using whatever weapon he so feels free to. Able to grab himself now 4 in a row. Cut short of a 5th as Benji is able to work on forward with Purdue. Stone trying to reinforce. Small lead for the Hilltoppers, but with only 20 seconds remaining, you have to feel like a lot of their attention will be to make sure they hold on to the spawn. Trying to throw some monkey wrenches into the system is Tragic. He's gotten all the way into Blue and around the back. Relk is maybe aware of this. He's kind of looking over towards the second hard point, but realistically, it's going to be down to, can anyone actually read that Tragic has gotten around the back? Because he could, just with one good kill, flip these spawns around.
You got to start reading names. You got to say, hey, we haven't seen Tragic in any of these gunfights. Where are they at? Tragic is now going to come online. What are you going to do from the back? Timing shots will take down Thresh. Challenge to the doorway. And yeah, that'll absolutely do just nicely. You see the north spawns, though, coming on the west side of the map for Purdue. So SEU Blue, they just got to recognize we got to take this 2v2 on the hard point now to try to battle in back from the spawns. They have cross angles from afar as well, but the reinforcements for Purdue are right around the corner.
Well, maybe getting overwhelmed. The SMG's still putting a lot of throwing into this hard point. Benji staying alive, trying to find Relic, and he does. Scopes him out nicely. How many more can he deal with, though? None. SEU Blue is overwhelming as they retake the spawns. They'll also grab the scrap time. So it's looking like it should be well over 160 to 136, favoring SEU. But the setup for Purdue coming to new looks pretty solid.
I remember from 3, 4, and 5, this entire west side of the map, this is where Purdue really started to find their strides in the first set of hard points, and where they seemingly put together about 120 points almost unanswered towards the tail end of the first. But SUE Blue just very quick. Again, the Augusto coming from the confidence has to be at an all-time high to hit through P3 and win these gunfights. It's looking to be pretty strong, but Tragic is just feeling themselves. 24 and 13 for them. Still have full streaks, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to say, he has yet to use these streaks, and as we get closer and closer towards the termination of this map 4, they could be massive over the top of the 5th hard point in particular. Good kills coming through from SCU, trying to contest the time. Relic on the back flank, able to find one more, and then help should be here to make sure Stone is essentially kept honest from being able to find any significant time or any significant kills, or so you would think. Off the spawn, though, Purdue find a couple. These are going to do nicely for the back 20 seconds. Crook, okay. A little bit of throwing back over to Tom. I imagine that conversation on Twitter later today is going to be fun. And at 184 to 149, SCU Blue are going to be tested on this rotation to 4 as Benji's found an opening, maybe make a play over towards Concrete.
Yeah, look at the North Street presence. Ben has started to become online. When we were talking about them being double negative, I mean, their stat line still isn't a sexy one at 15 and 22, but they get that A Street control for the initial time, but do they read that Thresh is behind them? I don't think that they surely will. It's going to be a little bit of a pinch play, but Thresh is doing a good job, at least off screen, to play their life. We also have Crook looking for plane control. They absolutely smoke Stone, and that's massive for plane control to hold down the P4 hill, while also looking on the rotation towards 5 when it's needed.
This is very problematic for Purdue. There's still a lot of time here on the 4th hard point. Crook is absolutely going massive in the middle of the map. I was going to say, it's going to force out streaks because you can't just allow this time to go. But again, this is not a hard point where you're going to find a lot of value off of these streaks. So the cruise missile comes down and finds absolutely nothing. 220 to 153. Purdue is left wanting, trying to find their way in. Eon's over the backside with Relk, trying to make a play through, and watch out for the flank from Crook. He's able to help things out. It's Thresh who's able to help things from the backside. Relk from the front, and that will be significant for SCU Blue, who get over 230.
Yeah, they'll get over 230, and they lock down the rotation over towards 5. So now Purdue, they got to fly through the plane. 2 players come through. Eons has it locked. They're L-triggered, looking at the doorway. They do find the first. Going 1 for 1 is still big, because you still have the close spawns. They absolutely do. Reading the hit from the south lane as well. It's just trades. The artillery strike is being used. Purdue, they got to break in. and they're just going to be able to get some close response to try to do so, but it's just not going to count. He got all of the angles locked down for SUE Blue. Streaks in a great end to the first set of hills just was not enough. The relentless, the confidence, and everything else to boot. SUE Blue Hilltoppers, we'll see you in Grands.
Dude, Eons. Wow. What a performance from him. And Thresh, like you mentioned, still doesn't get out fragged. He finished on 8 in a row. I mean, it's just like, I get it. And I know that there's probably a lot of people out there saying, look, it's Cold War after finals. It doesn't matter. Look, I'll be honest. As much as I think people will be out there from Purdue saying, oh, it's after the regular season, it doesn't matter. They're not just throwing away the opportunity for prize pool money. You still want to win. And this team is coming in with so much experience with one another against a fresh squad of SEU Blue. So if you were to take that argument, oh, this tournament doesn't really matter much because Cold War's done. What does that say about SEU Blue, who can say the same thing as a team that's been together for 4 days? Give me a break.
Yeah. I literally will give you that break because I will stand by and I will acclimate that. Again, because this SUE Blue roster again just fresh off coming in as a pickup team, more or less, met on Thursday. Probably didn't have any time playing together in Cold War. Yeah, you could talk about Thresh from Smog, whatever the other 3 players were doing throughout the entirety of the season, regardless of the matter. You just got handed a pretty swift loss, especially on that express search, the 3-0 loss on Checkmate. You're definitely going to be feeling that from Control. And then, again, a lot of the strong points from the submachine gun presence just wasn't there. Tragic all season long was trying to make the argument for Purdue that they could try to do everything humanly possible to win out mass for their team. But when you're facing a team like SUE Blue, even as an example, yes, again, have been a team for less than about a whole 5 days, are playing like that and confidently taking their challenges and winning them, it's going to trump single player strength every single time. Well played for SEU Blue at the end of it.
Credit where credit is deserved. I don't care what time of the year it is. SEU Blue now have to find a way to battle up, though, against Ottawa Black, a team that, to be fair, in the winners finals, they did test pretty darn nicely, but could not quite get over the hurdle. That is the second place team that finished out things from our regular season in the CCL playoffs for Cold War. We'll step away, let the teams do a chance to get their map picks and bans in. We'll be back to frame up the series and how exactly SEU Blue would have to find not a way to win one best of 5, but potentially a second versus this very strong Ottawa Black team. We'll be back after this.